And like it made enough. Like I read online, adjusted for inflation, it's a really hefty amount of money. Um, but but for some reason for Star Trek 2, they seriously slashed the budget.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we'll do another one, but you guys have to do it for like 10 million this time.
Which proves that money isn't everything. I mean, they slashed the budget in season 3, and that kind of sucked.
It's true.
They slashed the budget for Wrath of Khan, and it was awesome.
Wrath of Khan cost 11.2 million, but it also made less. It only made 97 million. Maybe everybody was like, motion picture, I don't know about this.
Kind of hoity-toity, right?
So,
like, I fucking know it's a motion picture. I'm going to the theater.
Yeah, all right. I'm not stupid.
It's the same guy who wrote that letter talking about the mixed racing.
There's a song about the mixing of the races. It's called "Don't You Do It."
I after I watched it, I texted Sean and I said to Sean, it was good but boring, if that makes sense.
I think that's pretty much the way I feel about it too. I think that it's got a lot going for it. It's got a great score.
Bum, ba, bum, ba, ba, bum.
Yeah, it introduces the theme that the next generation would adopt later, which I thought was the Star Trek.
That's what I thought it was too. Yeah, for sure.
So whenever I actually heard the Star Trek theme for the first time with the bongo drums and wailing women, I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
No, I like when I heard something awoke inside me when I started watching the motion picture. And I heard that theme, I was like, oh, shit, yeah, this is it.
The movie is very reverent towards its subject matter, and although I think it's a little too reverent at times, I mean, it takes them 10 minutes to fly around the Enterprise so they can dock with it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also because...
fans hadn't seen the ship in a long time, so they're trying to give them...
And also because it's supposed to be the pilot for a new TV show, so an hour-long pilot stretched out to 2 hours.
That's true. But the movie's 2 hours and 12 minutes long, and I was telling Becca after we watched it, if they'd cut about half an hour out of the movie, it would zip along at a decent pace.
It probably would have sold better. They put that out at the end of the Coke era. Like, people couldn't sit through that shit. The visuals were like more for acid or psychotropics. I mean, those were awesome.
It's true. I kept saying if I were on acid, this movie would be incredible. Because there are all these long shots of everybody on the bridge staring pensively out the view screen as they head towards, like, this starfish vagina thing that's hiding V'ger.
It reminded me a little bit sometimes of, like, a more commercial 2001.
Yeah. That's what I thought, too. It came out the same year as Alien, which also has a 2001 vibe, but is way better. But both kind of that slow, deliberately paced sort of...
Yeah.
What did you think about the interior of the Enterprise? Like, it looked like they have trains running around the ship to take people places. They have these massive...
They have like monorails.
Yeah, they have monorails inside the ship. I thought it had only been retrofitted. Like, I didn't think it was supposed to be so big that it... Like, 400 people are in it, right? In the original show. I don't know how much bigger it's supposed to be. And that scene where they're on the recreation deck looking at the footage of V'ger destroying stuff... It's this massive room. It's like, that is a huge waste of space on a spaceship.
On a spaceship.
Well, I mean, you look at the sets in Wrath of Khan and it's like a submarine. Everything's small. Also, that's a continuity gap between 1 and 2. It's like the Enterprise bridge shrinks between 1 and 2. Whatever. It's awesome.
Like, my thing, this is something that the 70s and the 80s are very much guilty of. When you see like a movie that was made in the 70s or 80s that's set in the future, it's almost like the design looks like someone who's designing stuff like in the 70s, but with like a futuristic flair to it.
Yeah, it's true. They're still inheriting from 2001 at this point. The designs all look like 2001, like the set designs and everything. Like the scene where Decker and Ilya are on the bridge, not on the bridge, on the recreation deck, and he's showing her games that she used to like to play. Like
and she's like, "What is this?"
Yeah, she sounds like she's got one of those "I lost my voice box vocoder" things.
Yeah.
She reminded me of the computer from the show.
What Becca says that she sounds a little bit like the computer from the show, who's actually voiced by Majel Barrett, Nurse Chapel. Even in the last movie, that was her last film work. She did the voice of the Enterprise computer.
V'ger.
Right before she died, she was like, doing voice work on her deathbed, and JJ's like, just last a little longer. We need one more take. She's like, engineering tech. There is another. Before she fades away.
Skywalker.
He's like, can we use any of that?
We can use the first part, but...
The rest, save it for when you direct episode 7.
Huh? Nothing.
George Lucas has a boom.
It's good.
Interesting things about the movie.
Slow.
It's slow. Originally, like you said, there was supposed to be a new Star Trek TV show, and
Phase 2,
and they were. I don't know why they decided to go. Oh, it was supposed to be part of a Paramount network, and when the network fell through, they were like, "Well, we've already spent all this money," so they. But I think by treating it seriously, it does take Trek kind of to that next level where it needs to be, so that the rest of the movies can kind of do their thing. It doesn't do it quite right, but it sets the stage for what I feel are my favorite things about Trek, which are movies 2 through 4. There's something
there
else.
There are lyrics to that song.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
We might as well. Let's see here. The lyrics. Apparently, I talked to our good friend Fratto.
Brian.
And apparently Gene Roddenberry, like, he's like, hey, he talked to a composer and he's like, hey, dude.
Alexander Courage.
Will you write the theme to the show? And he's like, yeah, sure. And I guess when they submitted it to whoever, to like, hey, this is music, this needs to be copywritten.
Right.
Gene Roddenberry, like, oh, and here are the lyrics. And he did that because he would get 50, even if like the lyrics aren't used, he's considered
entitled.
He's a songwriter on it, so he's entitled to half the royalties.
Gene the Peen.
And the guy, Alex Courage, was like, that's kind of a dick move. And I told Fratto about this, and he's like, oh yeah, like that, like in the 40s and 50s, like jazz musicians would do that shit all the time.
Assholes.
And so Roddenberry is like, well, if it works for black heroin addicts, it'll work for me.
Well, Roddenberry was big on, racial diversity, so he's like, well, I'll take their...
Yeah, I'll use that, but it goes, beyond the rim of the starlight, my love is wandering in starlight.
This is terrible.
I know you'll find its our closer reaches. Oh, I don't know.
What the fuck is...
Yeah, no.
This is awful.
Beyond the rim of the starlight, my love is wandering in starflight. I know he'll find in star-clustered reaches love. Strange love a star woman teaches, I know. His journey ends never. His Star Trek will go on forever. But tell him, when he wanders his starry sea, remember me.
Haunting.
That last line's kind of dope.
I'm sorry, starry seed.
Starry sea.
Tell him as he spreads his starry seed upon strangers' bellies. Remember me.
That last line's kind of dope.
It actually is pretty dope, but it's like he had one line. He's like, Star Cluster, Star Flight,
Star
Trek. Nailed it.
Got it.
I'm rich forever. This song's gonna be a huge hit. All right, so that's the motion picture. Any other thoughts about it? Oh. Decker and Ilya, those archetypes were recycled for the Next Generation as Commander Riker and the character Marina Sirtis plays.
Benson.
No, she's the empath, telepathic, the one who's never actually in a Starfleet uniform. She's the one who gets drunk in First Contact. You know who I'm talking about. She's got the
honker,
yeah,
the big nose.
Yeah, the very pretty lady with the big nose.
I don't know.
God damn it! What's that character's name? Rob's screaming at his
right
iPhone
now.
Right now.
His eyes are getting bloodshot.
He looks like Ren on Ren and Stimpy whenever he would go into a rage.
His like hands like flailing above his head, getting
You
wild.
idiot!
Pretty much.
God damn it! What's that character's name?
Tasha? No, wait.
Deanna Troi.
Oh, her?
Yeah, Troy. Yeah, she was, because those two characters have history, and so Roddenberry was like, fuck it. We threw them both away in Star Trek The Motion Picture. Let's try it again. Also, they recycled the theme song, and I think a lot of the Enterprise design from the first movie makes it into the Next Generation. You just singing.
It's stuck in my head. All right, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
For those eagle-eyed viewers, they will recognize Khan from Season 1, Episode Space Seed.
Probably the best episode of Star Trek ever.
I liked it a lot.
I think it's the best one.
Well, it starts off with Kirstie Alley of Cheers fame.
Yeah, prior to Cheers fame.
Is that why she wasn't in the third one?
I don't know. Like, it can't be because she wanted too much money, right?
They're like, I was integral to the success. Well,
Here, I'll Google it. You talk.
So they're going through the Kobayashi Maru exercise, which this is the first time that we see this, right? Is it the first time that it's
Yeah, it's the first time that this is where the Kobayashi Maru comes from.
And so Star Trek's doing its thing, whatever. There's another ship, the Reliant again, right?
Yep.
Always
Keep showing up.
Chekhov's there, and Captain Terrell's there, and they run into Khan.
Kirstie Alley said they offer me less money than they did for Star Trek II, so I figured they weren't very interested in me for Saavik. Dick move. She's an integral part of, like, she could have been a really interesting character, but they sort of write her out of the series. But anyway.
They run into Khan.
Yeah.
And he's kind of bitter, because apparently...
after they put him down on City Alpha 5, or 4.
There was
5 exploded or something, and completely threw off their orbit and destroyed
their ecosystem.
Yeah. So now they live on Tatooine during a sandstorm all the time.
And he's like, and Kirk never bothered to
check up on us,
to chill out with me.
Yeah.
And so
Kirk's like, fuck it, everything I do is right.
And so the movie's basically Khan's wrath.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. As he
goes to try to fuck up Kirk's life.
Mm-hmm.
He
wants to steal the Project Genesis,
which is what Lex Luthor wanted to do in Superman, which is in Superman the movie.
It's a land,
it creates land.
Yeah, basically. Well, that was in Superman Returns. He wanted to build land. In Superman the movie, he wanted to destroy, I think, the west coast of the United States, and he bought up all the desert land right where he was planning for. So it would be the new beachfront property. That's where Otisburg would be. That's
a foolproof plan.
Foolproof,
right?
Unless if you don't take into account Superman.
Oh, true.
But there is no Superman in Wrath of Khan. Kirk is flawed.
Oh,
he's got some glasses now. He's getting old.
He is getting kind of old.
Again, he's so much more interesting here than he's ever been before.
Like there's that one scene where he kind of sneaks his glasses on to read something.
Yeah, he's looking over the Kirstie Alley's panel because he wants to find out the code to bring down the Reliance shield so that they can shoot the shit out of it.
Uh-huh.
Pretty great scene, and he's like, if you want to run starships, you've got to learn how they work. Like, wagging his finger at Kirstie Alley, the mentee.
Also, Kirk has a son.
Mm-hmm.
He has a little bastard.
Yep, who hates him.
Named David, who inherited his Jew curls.
What's that guy? Merrick Buttress, I think is the actor's name. So, obviously somebody didn't take a stage name.
Obviously. And he's kind of responsible for Genesis. He's the one who is in charge of that. So they insert those little worm things in a Chekhov in Terrell's ears.
Yep. Which makes them brain slaves. And
they proceed to get everything, to fuck everything up.
Mm-hmm.
Terrell ends up killing himself.
Yes. Not for a little while.
He's forced to kill himself.
Well, I thought he killed himself so he wouldn't have to kill Kirk and Spock. I thought that was his force of will. Okay. He was like, I'd rather kill myself. Tyrrell doesn't get much love after this.
No.
Spock will get a full flag funeral, but Tyrrell...
Yeah, they're like, didn't someone else die? And I don't think so.
I don't think so. Spock died. Let's focus on what's important here.
Spoiler alert, Spock dies.
Yeah, in case you guys are getting your Star Trek stories exclusively from this show. We're all out of order here.
Spock dies at the end.
Saving the Enterprise.
Yeah, he